As of last year, the 2019 season, the breakout player of the year, who I think it was CJ Ham. CJ Ham is an amazing fullback, undrafted free agent for the Minnesota Vikings, and he gave Dalvin Cook an amazing season. If it was not for CJ Ham, Dalvin Cook would not have had as great as a season as he did. All those play action passes did a lot, the blocking, everything, and CJ Ham, most underrated player still on the Vikings. He's still the most underrated player on the Vikings. He did go to a Pro Bowl. I know he went to a Pro Bowl, but he needed Kyle Juszczyk to make the Super Bowl for him to even make the Pro Bowl in the first place, which I think is better than Kyle Juszczyk. People will disagree, but huge X factor to our team. This next season, he will again be an X factor. I love CJ Ham. He's probably like my favorite now. Him and Kyle Rudolph are probably my favorite Vikings on the team. Anyways, I love that player. I'm not going to have him on this year's list just because we need a new breakout player, even though he hasn't got his name out there like a lot of players. He did go to a Pro Bowl, though, so he was the breakout player of the year. Anyways, I've selected 5 players I think will be the breakout player of the year. Again, how we do this, we start with number 1, and we work our way down to 5 instead of doing the 5, 4, 3, 2. We do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 because that's the way I like to do it. Talk about the biggest one and then work our way down. So our biggest player, the breakout player of the year, second-year tight end, Irv Smith Jr. out of Alabama. And Irv Smith is a really young tight end. He has a lot of time to develop under Kyle Rudolph, which is a great player you want to develop under, a great leader. And, of course, we saw Irv Smith's talent last year. We saw him, how much he can block. He can do anything you want him to do, and I think Gary Kubiak will use him in many ways. We are going to see a lot of 2 tight end sets. That's why I do think we will see Irv Smith get the ball a lot more than he did last year. They used him a lot in blocking, passing, everything. And Irv Smith, again, this year, he will just do that, but plus more. And with Diggs not in our offense, we're going to need to be giving the ball to more people. With that being said, there's still a lot of people that they have to spread the ball around to. And Gary Kubiak is going to be good at making plays for every player, including Irv Smith. That's why I have him as the number 1 player for breakout player of the year. He's going to be an amazing tight end. I can't not see him being a good tight end. I mean, he's playing under Kyle Rudolph. He has time to develop, which you love to see in young players. He's a really young player. This last season, he was the youngest player in the entire NFL. And for young players like that to just have years where they're kind of getting used to it, adjusting to the NFL, because it's a big adjustment from college to NFL. It's hard for players to go to be amazing in college and then just be amazing in the NFL right after that. So Irv Smith, I think, obviously, if he was on another team, he would have been a starter. He would have been used a lot more. But I think this is best for him and for the Vikings team as a whole for when we move on from Kyle Rudolph, who has been in the league for a long time. Kyle Rudolph has been in the league for, I think, 10 years now. Oh, my camera's really glitchy right now. Okay. Yeah, I think he's been in the league for 10 years. So you got to get that next player up, that next man up. So for the number 2 position, I have a player last year who kind of was a breakout player, but I still think, obviously, if you're not a Vikings fan, you probably don't know who this player is. For this number 2 player, I have Mike Boone, who I don't understand how this player was not the punt and kick returner of the last season. We saw him punt and kick return in preseason. I don't know why they didn't do that in the actual season. I mean, we saw CJ Ham in the actual season doing it, fumbling. Amir Abdullah going out there fumbling. We saw Marcus Sherrills out there doing it did not look good for the punt and kick returning. Mike Boone this next season, I do not think will be the punt or kick returner because we did draft the KJ Osborne, and I think he will be a great punt and kick returner. Anyways, Mike Boone, I have him as the number 2 position. I think Mike Boone will be used more this season. Obviously, with Dalvin Cook and his injury issues, you're going to need some backup players. With obviously, you have Alexander Mattison as your backup. He was my rookie of the year this last season, but I don't know if Alexander Madison's gonna be the next guy. I don't really see it. After that, we have Amir Abdullah and Mike Boone. I think Mike Boone should be our backup running back. I think he's a great running back. Now, for number 3, we have a player who was also kind of a breakout player last year, and that would be BC Johnson, who was the rookie last year. This is his second year. Now, he's the number 4 receiver, and that's where I like him to be, is the number 4 receiver, and I have him as the breakout player of the year just because we saw his talent. He has talent. His routes are not very versatile. I mean, you can't use them in any way, shape, or form you want to, as you can Adam Thielen. Hopefully you can Justin Jefferson. Tajay Sharp is a really good 3, but BC was great outside and inside, and I could see him used a lot of ways because Gary Kubiak obviously likes to give the ball to every single player. If you're wearing a Vikings jersey, he wants you to play. And we could see BC play a lot more because he showed a lot of talent last year. Next up for the number 4th position, we have Chris Boyd, who was the rookie last year, and Chris Boyd was used a ton in special teams. I love to see Rick Spielman draft these players who are corners or something that are just kind of backups, but use them in special teams so they play every single game, and then they're also just like big backups. Chris Boyd this next season, the reason why I have him on this list is because he could be a starting corner. I don't know if a number 1 or 2, so probably just a number 3 corner, but we could see Chris Boyd playing a lot more. He's a great tackler, great with his feet. I don't see him as a 1 or 2 corner. Obviously, that will probably be Mike Hughes and Jeff Gladney will be our 1 and 2, but Mike Hughes gets injured a lot, and then you can have Holton Hill step in or Cameron Dantzler step in. But Chris Boyd is a number 3 corner. I do like that decision as well. He's a great tackler. I think inside this, use him as a slot corner. I feel like that's a really good spot to put him at, and I would love to see Chris Boyd be the breakout player of the year, especially because of our hole at, not at the entire secondary, we're great at safety, but our hole in the corners, because we need depth in our secondary, and that's what Chris Boyd brings to the table, as well as a great player in special teams, which is what we love to see, and we saw that last year. So Chris Boyd, number 4th position. I feel like breakout player is not right with Chris Boyd. I feel like breakout player for the Vikings, though. Like, if you're a Vikings fan, you'll know who Chris Boyd is if he does live up to what I'm saying right here, because I don't feel like he'll be making Pro Bowls or anything like that, because he would just be a slot corner in my opinion. But anyways, for the number 5th position, we have Eric Wilson. Obviously, our starting linebackers, Anthony Barr, Eric Kendricks, great starting linebackers. Backup linebackers, we are really we have a lot of depth at linebacker. Eric Wilson was supposed to be our starting outside linebacker this last season. Obviously, Anthony Barr came back. He did take a deal with the Jets, didn't sign it, wanted to come back with the Vikings, so Eric Wilson was our backup. However, when Anthony Barr was gone, when Anthony Barr went out with the leg injury during the Bears game, during preseason, we saw Eric Wilson play. He was the undrafted free agent, and he came to the Vikings. Looks amazing. I love Eric Wilson, and he could be the breakout player of the year. I mean, for this to happen, though, Anthony Barr would have to get injured. I don't see them playing over Anthony Barr, but I do like Eric Wilson. He has a lot of talent. They placed a 2nd-round tender. No one was able to take. No one took on it, which I'm not that surprised on. But they did give him a new contract. So yeah, look out for Eric Wilson. Obviously, Eric Kendricks and Anthony Barr are great linebackers. Anthony Barr didn't do that good last year, but I feel like he'll do better this year. And Eric Wilson looked amazing last year. So I'd honestly. No, Anthony Barr doesn't cost that much for the Vikings, so I would not get rid of Anthony Barr. Although I do think Eric Wilson would also be a really good starter. He's a great backup and will probably be the starter of the future when Anthony Barr's contract is done and they can't pay him anymore. So those are my 5 possible breakout players of the year. Let me know in the description or in the comment section down below, or if you're listening to this, let me know on Instagram or anything. Yeah, if there's any players, what your top 5 would be. What would your top 5 biggest breakout players of the year be? Who do you disagree with? Who would you add? Let me know. Thank you.